Hello everyone, I'm Maria Credali. Long ago there was a lord, and he was a very wealthy man, and he lived as one befitting his station in a mansion that was packed with Persian carpets and fine master paintings on the wall and thoroughbred racehorses in his stable. But none of these treasures was his most prized possession, for that was his child, a rare thing indeed, an only child, a daughter. And she was a girl of some 15 summers, with sunshine and a smile and a sparkle in her eyes, and everyone loved her, and she caught the eye of many a man. And the Lord realised that when his daughter was catching the eye of these men, it was time to make a suitable match. And so a parade of men appeared at the mansion. There were fat ones, thin ones, tall ones, short ones, young ones, old ones, all of them had lots of money. And his daughter would have none of it. She didn't like any of them. None of them took her eye. And he was pondering the problem of this one day as he rode his hunter across his estates, the Lord. And as he got back and started to lead his horse across the courtyard, his brow was well and truly furrowed, and he saw, sat there upon a fence, one of the stable lads, and he was singing a song to himself, and he was whittling away on a piece of wood, happy as anything. Look at that, thought the Lord. I should be so lucky. What you got there, lad? He said to the stable lad. Oh, it's nothing, my lord, morning. It's just a trifle, look. And he opened his palm, and there in the middle of his palm was a carved piece of wood, and the Lord could tell that it was going to be an oak leaf, and it was beautifully done. He was really good at his craft. Well done, lad, he said. Here, and he flipped him a coin. Give my horse a good rub down, will you? And the lad went off, and the Lord thought no more about it, until several weeks later, when his daughter had mysteriously over the last few weeks started to have roses in her cheeks and a sparkle in her eye. And he went to tuck her in one night, and he just checked on her as she had done when she was a young girl, and she was fast asleep, and he just moved a strand of hair off her face, and it disturbed her enough to roll over, and as she rolled, her hand uncurled, and from her hand fell a perfectly carved oak leaf. Well, nothing was said, but the following morning the girl was bundled into a carriage, and she was taken some 40 miles or more away, and there she stayed with her aunt and her uncle, safe. But she was sad. She missed her home, she missed her horse, she missed her family, but most of all, she missed her stable lad. She missed his lovely blue eyes as he smiled at her. She missed his hands all warm and rough as he lifted her down from the horse. And she missed that connection they had when he'd handed her that oak leaf, and it was still warm from his hand. The warmth was held in the wood as he gave it to her. She kept it under her pillow. And it kind of called to her through her dreams. His voice came through her dreams, and you know what unrequited love's like. This girl was driven near insane with longing. And she set to think about something suitable she could send him in return for the oak leaf. And she decided what she would do is make him a scarf. And she began to embroider this scarf. And every stitch she put in the scarf, it was placed with the care that she would have placed a kiss upon his face. And these kisses and this love and this longing was stitched night after night into this scarf, until all that love was caught within the folds of the cloth. And as autumn turned to winter, she finished the scarf, and one evening she sat there, and she wrapped the finished scarf around her shoulders and held it to herself as if she was holding her boy. And she sat and looked out of the window, and the first few flakes of snow began to fall from the sky, and a tear fell from her eye and rolled down her cheek and dropped shone on that scarf for a moment. She looked at it and she was startled because there a stone had hit the window, and down in the courtyard was her stable lad, and he was waving at her. Well, she didn't need asking twice, and she leapt up and she grabbed her cloak and wrapped it around herself, and she made her way quietly down the stairs, and she unbolted the door and she flung herself into his arms. "What are you doing here?" she said. "Oh, your father sent me," he said. "I've come to bring you home." And he took her hand in his and he kissed it. "Oh, you're so cold. Why didn't you put your big coat on?" she said. "Here, I've got something for you. I made it for you." And she took off the scarf that she'd embroidered for him and she wrapped it around his shoulders. And he lifted her onto the horse and he climbed up in front of her, and they began to ride, and they rode and they rode and they rode. They rode across crisp white fields. They leapt over hedges that were as sparkling and white as snow clouds, and they forded streams where the water was so icy that it felt like daggers on her legs. And the snow swirled around them, and by the time they got back to her father's house, shielded as she had been behind her stable boy, she was so cold. She was half frozen. He lifted her down and he rubbed her to warm her up. "Go on," he said, "get in." "Come with me," she said. "Come on, we'll talk to my father tonight." "No," he said, "go in, get yourself sorted. I'm going to sort the horse out. I'll see you in a bit." And she went into the house. And he walked off in the direction of the stables with the horse. And the servants were bustling around lighting candles, and there was a bit of a commotion. And she said, "Where's my father?" And they took her into the kitchen and sat her down with a hot drink. And when the Lord came and found his daughter in the kitchen, he said, "Daughter, what are you doing here?" "Oh," she said, "Father, thank you so much for sending such a messenger to pick me up as well. That was so kind." And she flung herself into his arms. And she told him the whole story of the evening. And he sat her down. And he said, "Daughter, you're cold and you're tired. We'll get you to bed now and we'll talk more in the morning." And she says, "What are you talking about?" "Daughter, you're mistaken. I don't know how you got yourself home. We'll talk more in the morning." And she insisted that what she'd said was true. And after several moments, the Lord lost his temper and he actually said to her, "Daughter, your stable lad is dead. He died a week back. He's in the churchyard and we'll take you to see the grave tomorrow." Well, all went black. When the girl awoke the next morning, they took her to the churchyard. And there she saw his grave with just a simple cross with his name upon it. That's all there was. And still she wouldn't have it. She insisted that he was the one who'd brought her home. And after several hours of hysteria, the Lord ordered the grave to be open, and the two of them stood hand in hand and stood back as the earth showered off the coffin as it was raised. And they heard the squeal of the nails as the lid was lifted. And together they looked into the coffin. And the girl began to sob, because there, those beautiful blue sparkling eyes were covered with copper pennies now. And that soft, warm smile was frozen on his lips. And there, wrapped around those cold, cold shoulders, was a scarf. A scarf with stitches that had been placed with the care of a lover's kisses. A scarf that had so much love stitched into it, it had reached beyond the grave. Hope you enjoyed that. Thank you ever so much for listening. I'm Maria Credali. Look after yourself, and we'll see you on the other side.